Hello, my beautiful loves. It is so good to see you. As always, if you are jumping on, say hi to me. I love to connect with you, Team Live. If you're watching this as a replay, let me know in the comments, Team Replay. So last week, I asked you, what is more important in our health, nutrition or exercise? And I didn't even specify in what capacity I meant with weight loss or health or all the different areas of our life. But I wanted to dive deeper into this question because I know it was very broad and you guys had some awesome feedback and answers. So thank you for commenting back from that post. But I think oftentimes we want the magic solution. Tell me exactly what do I need to do? Give me all of the answers. And with most things, nutrition, it depends on so many levels what we are doing and the methods that we are taking to achieve whatever the goals are that we have for ourselves. So if we're looking at this from a weight loss perspective, let's just take a minute to talk about our total daily energy expenditure. So this means how many calories our body is burning throughout the day on a daily basis. This is about 4 pieces of the pie here. About 60 to 70% of our energy expenditure is our basal metabolic rate. How many calories our body's burning at rest just for basic functioning, heart to beat, lungs to breathe, body just to do basic functioning, which is tremendous amount of effort if we were just lying in bed, no activity. And then an additional about 10% of our energy expenditure is from digesting and absorbing our food. Protein does have a higher thermic effect than other macronutrients, meaning it takes more energy to digest and break down protein than fats and carbohydrates. So that does play a role. Also, more high fiber foods have a greater thermic effect. The other piece of this is from non-exercise activity, which is our daily movement. So parking farther away, taking the dog for your walk, cleaning, doing chores around the house, your daily movement throughout the day, which is about 15 to 20%. So it can be quite a bit of our energy expenditure. And the last piece is exercise, which is going to be about 10 to 15% of our total daily energy expenditure. So thinking about this from that standpoint, I would say generally speaking, you could say nutrition is about 70% of the equation and exercise is about 30% of the equation. If we're looking at it from a number standpoint, which is always subjective. So from that piece, what I want you to recognize is that they both matter in seeing results. Oftentimes I will see people tell me that they're focusing on changing their activity. They're really focusing on their exercise. They're getting more workouts in and they've seen results from that, which is awesome, right? They're burning more calories throughout the day. They're in a calorie deficit despite not changing nutrition. But here's the thing, that's going to work for a period of time. If you're not addressing your nutrition, you're going to hit a plateau. You're going to stop losing weight unless you continue to add more and more and more activity, which hits a threshold, right? There's only so much activity you can do in a day realistically without injuring yourself, with proper rest and recovery and restorative movement and doing other things in your life. Or what can happen as well that I see is people have focused solely on exercise, haven't addressed the nutrition piece, and then a significant life event happens to them. So this could be a death in the family, divorce, moving, schedule changes, the pandemic. I saw this a lot with people, right? Where something traumatic in our life happens. And because we haven't addressed the other aspects with food, alcohol, all those other things that contribute to calories too throughout the day, we overdo it in these other aspects. And maybe nutrition or maybe the exercise piece, we're not able to do at the level we were doing to create the results we got. So we gain the weight back. right? It's not sustainable to only focus on doing one thing to the extreme. We can look at nutrition in the same lens, where if we're over restricting calories, we can only do this for a period of time before our body, first of all, can't function on that. You feel awful and you don't have motivation to want to work out. So they both matter, right? Is the point here. Both nutrition activity matter. With the nutrition piece, it is easier to create a calorie deficit by making some pretty simple modifications and seeing results from that. So, for example, you could swap out some lower calorie beverages. You could do smaller portions, less snacks. Say you want to have a 400 calorie deficit, right? It's going to be easier to create that with these little tweaks versus trying to solely burn 400 calories from exercise alone, which, like we talked about, requires a lot of movement. It's time consuming and it can be taxing on your body if you're not balancing it appropriately or fueling your body effectively to get the most out of your workouts and feel your best in your workouts. And then to lend from that, if we talk about a little bit on muscle building, strength training, cardio. I know this is a whole different conversation that we can have, but just to touch on this briefly, strength training is going to help preserve and build muscle mass, which can increase your metabolic rate that we talked about at rest. And it can also increase your metabolic rate for a longer period of time after the session. So even 48, 72 hours, you're still burning more calories at rest after the session with greater muscle composition. Aerobic or cardio training burns more calories in the moment of the session, right? In that session, you see a greater calorie burn, but it's not necessarily lending to a greater burn over the day or past that. And I think this is where we get caught up of like, oh, I burn more calories doing cardio than I did doing a strength session in the moment. But if we have to look at this again, big picture, we're increasing our muscle composition, which burns more calories. And the other factor here is if we're doing a lot of really high intensity cardio, we're going to be hungrier, right? So we're going to want to eat more, which is going to be harder to create a calorie deficit with an increased appetite from that. And think about this too, like with your training versus if you do more strength training or even just more walking or lower intensity activity, you don't get as much of that spike in hunger as you would from like a really high intensity cardio session. Again, not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just including these things in a way that makes sense in a realistic way for you. And then if we talk about managing health conditions, heart health, for example, exercise and movement is really going to help to strengthen our heart muscle, which allows our heart to push more blood into our body during each heartbeat, which is really going to decrease the amount of stress on the heart and arteries. And then with diabetes, this can really help, movement can really help improve insulin sensitivity and blood sugar control, meaning blood sugar is more able to get into the cell and be used for energy versus staying in the bloodstream and not being used for energy. But if we're not taking into account our diet, in addition to managing diabetes and heart health, blood pressure, we can only get so far, right? So we can exponentially, I can't say that word, but you know what I mean? We can get a greater benefit from combining both of these things together in a realistic way. And then the last piece is mental health, right? A nutrient-dense diet rich in lean proteins, high fiber carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, healthy fats is associated with improved mental well-being and lowering the risk of anxiety and depression. We feel better when we give our body proper nutrients that it needs. It runs better. It allows things to move more effectively, which makes us feel better in return. In addition, exercise can also immediately help to improve our mental well-being, right? When you go out for a walk, you just feel better, right? It doesn't even have to be high intensity. It can be like a really good workout. After you leave your workout, you're like, oh, I'm in such a better space, right? And we make better choices. It's so helpful in managing stress and overall mood. So increasing exercise does increase endorphins, those feel-good hormones that can help to manage our mood and stress levels. So again, these things together, whether you're looking at weight loss, managing health conditions, body composition goals, mental health, all of these aspects of wellness, they both make a tremendous difference. That being said, where do you start? So what I like to look at is always big picture. So when I'm starting to work with someone, we look at where they are at now, currently. So if they already have a fitness routine in place, great, let's keep that and focus on some nutrition habits. If someone's coming to me and they feel like their nutrition is really struggling and they don't have any type of formal exercise or movement in their schedule, then we'll start with nutrition first. Because otherwise, we're making too many changes at once in general. So it's just too many things that we're trying to change in our habits at once. And it's going to feel overwhelming and we do nothing. So we start with nutrition first, feel better first, get that piece in a better place, and then we'll start to add more of a movement component. This is so individual. I am not prescribing people fitness routines and exercise programming. I am meeting them where they're at and giving them specific focuses based on if they already have a fitness program, or just adding in walks and just general movement can make a tremendous difference. So to come full circle here with the message of nutrition and exercise, I like to look at it as doing these things to support your body in all of the aspects by prioritizing making better nutrition choices, as well as moving your body in a way that feels good. Because we are not robots, meaning even if you're looking at numbers, there's so many reasons why we make choices every day from an emotional level, right? So based on our stress or what happened throughout the day or how much sleep that we got, regardless of activity, affects our mood and our energy and the choices we make with our nutrition, right? So it's not just about here's your calories, here's your macros, go hit all your numbers. It's about, why am I choosing to make these choices I'm making? What is my relationship with these foods? And we really have to work on those pieces first, foundationally, before we can really focus on the other aspects of tweaking things more specifically if we want to create long-term change. So I'm going to go over and look at my comments here. I've been neglecting. But it was so good to just connect with you all. I just really stand for not coming from a place of over restriction or feeling like we have to do all of these things in an extreme way to see results. Be kind to yourself, meet yourself where you're at, and remember to be realistic with your circumstances and your lifestyle in starting with what makes sense for you. So I hope that was helpful to break that down in a way that makes sense. Let me know, what is the one biggest takeaway that you've got from that? What are you currently struggling most with, nutrition or movement in your day? Or what are you feeling really strong, nutrition or movement? We'd love to support you towards that. I hope you have a blessed rest of your afternoon, and I will see you guys soon.